If you're thinking about buying a home in McKinney, Texas, this is the video for you. I'm going to cover everything from the very beginning, getting your finances in order, looking at the different cost of home ownership, along with selecting the right real estate agent, getting pre-approved, what the offer looks like, and for sure, McKinney Real Estate, giving you a different perspective that you might not have heard of McKinney, and also the property taxes, which is something that is very much in the news right now. So I want to make sure that we cover that as well as we get going. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down in the chat. Want to make sure that I address them as we get going. So let me just check our audio here and we should be good to go. All right, so McKinney, Texas, here's what we got. All right, now all of our notes, everything that you're going to see here, along with our checklist, the guides, and a few other resources that are going to help you save in property taxes and help you find that perfect home in McKinney can be found in dfwhomebuyerclass.com. So if you go to dfwhomebuyerclass.com, you can see everything that we're covering here and then some that's going to help you in your home journey. So there's a few things that we want to cover. We're going to go through the mindset, the financial assessment, finding the right real estate agent, getting pre-qualified, the home search, and the strategy that goes with the home search so you're not overspending, how to make the offer, and then what happens while you're in contract. So we're not just covering how to get into the contract. I'm going to share with you the exact same process that our internal sales agents use with our clients that we currently work with. And then we're going to go into the closing and what happens after closing. So this is the roadmap that we're going to cover today. So if you are finding value in this video as we get going, a huge favor that I'm going to ask from you is to hit that like button. It's going to really help distribute this video to the masses that need this type of information if they're looking to buy in McKinney. So first things first, let's talk about the mindset. Let's get the mindset right. And rather than give you a whole like, hey, just think positive, or hey, think that you can do it, let's just avoid that altogether and ask a very practical question in regards to mindset. Asking ourselves, hey, if it makes sense for me to buy, will I actually do it? If all the conditions are perfect, if the home is right, the price is right, if I find an opportunity that is right for me, will I actually go through with it? Or am I just thinking, am I just being peer pressured? If I find everything that I want in that home, will I actually go through with it? It's going to really help you identify if you truly are looking for a home, or if you're looking for a way to pass the time. So again, this really helps you identify if this is something that is something that you're going to want to move forward with, right? At the end of the day, I certainly don't want any buyer's remorse for anybody. So this is going to really help you identify that from the get-go. Now there's other filters or other questions that we're going to be asking ourselves as we get going, but this is one of the better ones to frame our thoughts and our motivation. So the second thing that I cover with our clients that are looking to buy is explaining the 3 types of costs associated with a real estate transaction. So associated with being a homeowner. The first one is the ongoing cost of being a homeowner. That includes the mortgage. That's something we're very familiar with, but it also goes beyond that. It includes the HOA fees, the additional amount that you're probably going to be paying in utilities, any repairs, and also at the end of the day, it's the cost of home ownership, the maintenance that's required to be a homeowner. Are you ready to undertake those ongoing costs? If the answer is yes, awesome, fantastic. Let's keep it going, but it's very important to have clarity that is something that's going to come up. The ongoing cost will continue going on. That's what ongoing means. The second thing to consider whenever you're looking at this financially as you're exploring a purchase in McKinney is the transaction cost. So the cost to actually purchase a home. I think most individuals know that there's probably going to be a down payment associated with the purchase of a home. So if you do a conventional loan, it's going to be about 3%, the minimum down payment. FHA, the minimum down payment is going to be 3.5%. Those are the minimums, but it doesn't stop there. Whenever you're going and purchasing a home, not only do you need to have enough money in the bank to cover the minimums, but you also need to have enough money in the bank to cover the closing cost. So it's not enough to have 3%, 3.5%, or however much you're going to put down. You also need to consider the closing cost. The closing cost when it comes to the lender fees, the title fees, the what's called prepaid, where you're prepaying insurance and you're prepaying property taxes, this appraisals, this all comes up. So I don't want it to blindside you that during the transaction, during the time that you're purchasing a home in McKinney, we're not just looking at the down payment, we're looking at the closing costs that add up. The third part to consider as you're going through your own financial assessment is the moving cost. There is a real cost associated to moving your belongings from one location to another. So from your home, getting out of your home in and of itself is going to require an investment. So you're probably either in an apartment or renting a home out. Well, if you want your deposit back, chances are you're going to be doing some repair work to the property, so you don't get dinged on the way out. So there's going to be some cost to actually repair and get that property back to which the way in the condition that you found it. There's a cost associated to that. There's a cost in moving the belongings that you have. There's a cost to your new home, whether you're looking to upgrade the home, repair the home, or simply furnish the home. There's some real cost to that. So between these three costs, it can cost thousands of dollars that we're overlooking. So if you're ready for that, or if you at least have, we can calculate this in something you're going to see on later on in the video. We're going to be calculating a good portion of this, especially the ongoing cost, to give you an idea. But right now, we need to at least set the framework that we're not just talking about having a minimum down payment, and we're not just talking about having we're not just talking about the mortgage payment that we're going to undergo, that we're going to be paying every single month. There's some additional costs associated to home ownership. Now, the next step, after you have a bit of clarity on the financial assessment front, what it's going to take financially for you to purchase a McKinney, we need to look at finding that right McKinney real estate agent. And there's two primary criteria when you're looking for a real estate agent. You're looking for somebody that knows real estate, so somebody that can write a competitive offer, essentially write a really good contract, that knows amendments, that knows negotiation, that knows how to get a transaction done. So you need a real estate agent that can do real estate. Another component of a strong real estate agent, especially McKinney, is that knows the market. The McKinney market is unique. The McKinney market is unlike other markets out there. So buying in McKinney is different than buying in Fort Worth, than buying in downtown Dallas, than buying in Forney. So McKinney is a behemoth in and of itself. So you need a real estate agent that knows how to work that area. So again, finding that right real estate agent is super important. And you're looking for two main criteria. Number one is that they know real estate. Number two is that they know the market, in that order. All right. So getting pre-qualified after you find that right real estate agent, most likely you're going to be encouraged to get pre-qualified. In fact, you should be encouraged to get pre-qualified, because that's going to help you in your home search in several different ways. But number one, it's going to show the sellers that you're serious. If you find that perfect home, you're going to submit an offer, and that offer must have a must have evidence that you can purchase that home. So if you're going to buy it cash, awesome, you don't need to get pre-qualified, but most transactions are going to involve a loan. And if that's the case, you need to have a pre-qualification letter accompanying your offer to show the sellers that you're serious, to show the sellers that you're financially capable of purchasing. So again, getting pre-qualified, it's going to allow your offer to actually stand out. And the second component to getting pre-qualified is going to set a budget for you. It's going to give you a realistic expectation of how much home you can afford. You don't have to guess. Having a pre-qualification letter is going to let you know the mortgage payments that you're going to be paying. It's going to let you know how much home you can actually afford with the current salary, debt, assets, and income that you're making right now. super important that we have that clarity up front. It's going to really position you for step number 5 whenever we're doing the home search and the strategy behind that. But for sure, we want to at least get pre-qualified to make the next step so much easier. Now, here's a pro tip. Get multiple quotes from multiple lenders. You don't want to just take one pre-qualification and call it good. The same way that you would get multiple quotes from somebody that's doing your roof, that somebody that's doing your fence, somebody that is a vendor that you're working with. Get multiple lenders involved in your pre-qualification in your mortgage search. Why is this the case? Well, you want to see what is being offered when it comes to the fees. You want to see what type of interest rates are being offered right now. And one of the myths that's out there is that the more that you get your credit pulled, the lower your credit is going to go. Now, that in and of itself, in the normal world, let's call it, yes, that's the case. But in the mortgage world, in the home lending world, whenever you're purchasing a home, that's actually different. Whenever you're buying a property and are submitting an application for a home loan, that application and any further ones that you go on to do will be treated almost the same with the credit bureau. So you get a grace period on being able to pull your credit over and over again through a few weeks after your initial credit pull. So it's not dinging your credit, it's not dinging your credit score every single time you get a credit pull from a different lender that you're quoting. That's a huge advantage to getting pre-qualified, and you get the upside of the multiple quotes. But let's talk about the home strategy search. Let's get into finding that right real estate home, finding that right home in McKinney. So we're gonna quickly hop on over to the McKinney map, and we're gonna look at the real estate available in McKinney right now, so we can start quoting out some different mortgages and also see what type of properties are available in the city at the moment. Before we do that, let's get right with our strategy. There's 2 main things that you'll want to do when it comes to getting clarity ahead of time, and then one pro tip that I really encourage you to do. Number 1 here though is creating a needs list. Getting a must list in order is going to really help you get clarity on the type of home that you're looking for in McKinney. So what is it that your home needs? Does it need to be 1 story? Does it need to have a pool? Does it need to be a certain size? What are the absolute musts? What's the absolute need whenever you're purchasing in McKinney? So up to 5 items here. Once you create this list, you need to have at least, at most 5 items. There's anything beyond that is gonna be very challenging for you to actually find a home that exists. There's no such thing as a perfect home. So we can at least get clarity up front to the best of our abilities with 5 needs or 5 musts, and then work from there. So having that list is extremely vital. The second list that you're going to create is a wants list. This one's going to be more flexible. This one you're going to get a little bit more flexibility in your McKinney home search. In this one, it doesn't have to, your home doesn't need to have these things, but you would want them to have these things. So as an example, you would love it to have an open concept kitchen, but it's not a deal breaker. You would love it to be a gas home, but it's not a deal breaker. You would love for it to be on 1/3 of an acre or more, but it's not a deal breaker. So getting this wants list is going to really help you whenever you're setting your search on Zillow, or whenever you're sending your search over, or your agent is setting the safe search on the MLS. This is going to give you that clarity up front, and will also save you a lot of time, so you're not going and seeing property that has no shot of you actually moving forward with. That's something that's going to be super important. It's going to save you so much time and so much money, and save you so much frustration whenever you're looking for your home. Now here's a pro tip. When you're looking for your home, do life in your future neighborhood. So this means that if you are moving to McKinney from, let's say you've been working and living in Dallas your entire life, and now you're ready to go off to McKinney. Well, after work, go and do the commute to McKinney, right? So don't let you going to home for the very first time is after you've bought the home. Go ahead and do life, then run your normal routine as if you're already living in McKinney. So after work, instead of driving straight home, go drive to McKinney, maybe have a little bit of a dinner over there, and just start experiencing it and what it would feel like. Are you comfortable with that commute? Same thing on the weekends. Are you go and spend some time in McKinney at where you would be normally spending some time in the future, right? So try to, before you're actually committed to living in that area, try to go and live in that area to see if this is actually the place that you want to be. It's going to be super helpful in your home search, and ultimately, here again, it's going to help you avoid buyer's remorse. That's something that's going to be coming back over and over again in this theme of our home buyers session. Now, again, all of our notes are going to be in dfwhomebuyerclass.com, so make sure you check those out. And if you're finding value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It's going to really help out the channel. But for our purposes right now, let's start doing a little bit of McKinney real estate. Let's start finding some McKinney real estate and see what's available at the moment. There's over 1,200 properties for sale right now with an average of $618,000. Now, this includes every type of real estate out there. This includes condos, this includes commercial, includes leases and all that fun stuff. So we're gonna narrow it down and only look at McKinney real estate that's available for sale in a single family form. Let's zoom out for a quick second so you see what we're talking about. McKinney is one of the largest cities, not just by area, but also by population in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. McKinney is a destination city for a lot of folks. It just has so much going for it. So check this out. And McKinney is one of those cities that's been a destination city for quite a while, and is one of those cities that actually still has new construction. Why? Well, because it has a lot of land still. Right now, when you're looking at the Colony or Plano and Allen, these areas have been built out. Richardson, these areas, they're going to have very little new construction, but McKinney is still one of those cities that has incredible schools, that has a ton of new construction right now. Up here, you can find homes, and you're going to see them as we go through and explore them at affordable prices. So check this out. Let's start looking at this in price ranges. So you see the real estate that's available for sale right now. Now, the least expensive homes for sale in McKinney right now that are affordable, and then rephrase that are move-in ready, are in the low $200,000. Now, if you would have said, hey, what's the least expensive home in McKinney? To a lot of people, they would say, well, it's probably like $300,000, $400,000. But that's not the case. Now, granted, these homes that are under $300,000 are not the largest. However, these are homes that are ready to go and are not completely out of reach. And these are right in the heart of McKinney. So let's start framing. Let's start putting a bit of parameters in place so we can see what we've got going on. Let's say we have a pre-approval of up to $400,000 and see what type of real estate we can buy in McKinney and where. So you see there's over 100 properties available for sale right now in McKinney. You have scattered that community up here, so there's a lot of building up here. You have the properties scattered all throughout here, so typically you're going to see them more in the downtown area, a little bit further south towards the Allen side of the world, but for the most part they're scattered throughout. Now, these properties, you're going to see them are going to be more in the 600,000s or so, but that shouldn't deter you. So let's go over here and see other type of real estate. Let's see, we're at the $350,000 mark. I'm going to scroll through here so you see the type of real estate that's available at the moment. 1,500 square feet, 1,800 square feet, 2,000 square feet. And then we're getting to the upper echelon of our bracketed range. 400,000 is where we're getting to. So you see you have a good amount of homes that are in the 1,800 square feet, give or take. Now let's go from 400 to 6. We'll go to 500, 400 to 500, and see how many homes are available for sale right now. You see that a majority of the homes in McKinney are in this price point, from $400,000 to $500,000. So if you've been thinking about buying in McKinney, here's something I want you to observe. Well, number one is that it is when you compare it to the Friscos of the world as an example, or the Allens of the world, is still very, very affordable and competitive when it comes to those cities right there. But let's also look at something else that you're going to start seeing more and more of. This little reduced, as soon as I hover, it goes away. The reduced label, you're going to start seeing more and more and more and more of those. Like so, seller financing, getting creative. So as I scroll, reduced, 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 reduced. So if you've been thinking about purchasing in the area, if you've been thinking about purchasing outright, this is a theme throughout the entire DFW Metroplex. Prices are coming down. So yes, interest rates might be up in the high sixes, and you're going to see what they are right now as we calculate one of these properties. But for the most part, you're seeing that if you've been thinking about moving into McKinney, you've been waiting for prices to come down. Well, a swing from if you were able to get this home for $475, $460, which is not unreasonable at the prices that we're at, even $450. I guarantee we've been able to negotiate some crazy, and I cannot stress enough how crazy the negotiations we've been able to get. Just a swing of $50,000, you're talking about several, well, maybe not entire percentage points, but it would be the same as if we were looking at 0.5%, 1% less in interest rate. So that's something that is often overlooked, that we're not just, when it comes to reducing your monthly mortgage payment, you're not just looking at the interest rate, you're looking at how much you are actually borrowing. But let's start talking about, well, let's do this. Let's do one more, and then we'll come back and do our exercise of calculating the monthly mortgage payment. But I like to see how many homes are available towards the higher end price. So 500 homes are available over $500,000. So let's see what the most expensive home right now for McKinney is. It's a $5 million property. That's a beautiful home. Very beautiful. Cool. All right, so let's do this. Let's calculate. Let's go back to number one here and check out this property right now. What we're going to do is we're going to actually do the math. I'm going to show you the monthly mortgage payment. We were talking about the financial assessment. So what we're going to cover is we're going to cover this to give you an idea of what the monthly mortgage payment would be. And I'm going to calculate it exactly alongside with you so you can see how it's done. One of the biggest reasons that I'm doing this is because property taxes are a huge deal here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And I want you to be fully aware of how to calculate property taxes, not be intimidated by them, and also get them right. Even if you're working with a very qualified lender, property taxes are just an issue. They're just, they just are. So I'm going to show you exactly how to calculate them so you don't get duped. All right, so I'm going to give you all of the resources here that are public facing, but also go to dfwhomebuyerclass.com. I have even more specific calculators that you can use that does a lot of the homework for you so you don't have to guess. But here, I just want to give you public facing items, public facing websites, so you can just go follow along with me and not have to, opt into anything. So check this out. Mortgage calculator, just go to bankrate.com and they're going to have the mortgage calculator right there. And then we're going to buy this house for $500,000. Throughout the entire rest of the video, we're going to attempt to buy this home, and you're going to see the different things that we're going to look at. So $500,000. For our purposes today, we're going to say we're going to say that we're going to put 20% down on the purchase of this property. Why? Well, if you put at least 20% down or more, you avoid paying what's called mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is the insurance that a lender puts on you, or essentially has you purchase in the event that you default. So that way they're not out as much money if you do end up defaulting. And this mortgage insurance will vary in terms of cost, but it will be about 0.5% to about 1% additional to what you're already paying. So if you're paying 6.5% or 7%, we'll add 0.5 to another percent to that, and that's what it's going to be in mortgage insurance. So that adds up quite quickly. But you can avoid that altogether if you put at least 20% down or more. Now here's the thing. I recognize that not everybody is in a position to put 20% down. No worries. You can actually put less than that, but just know that there's mortgage insurance involved, and I'm going to show you how to calculate that here shortly. But let's continue. So if we put less than 20% down, know that if we get a conventional loan, you can put as little as 3% down plus closing costs. Remember that. If we do a FHA loan, you're looking at minimum 3.5% down plus mortgage insurance here again. So there's other videos where I explain how to calculate the monthly mortgage payment. So we're not going to get into this any longer than what we need to. But for our purposes today, let's keep it going. We're going to go with the 30-year loan, which is very common in mortgages. But we need to find what's the interest rate right now. So again, keep in mind this calculation is typically done even before you start speaking with real estate agents, before you start speaking with lenders. This is something that you can follow along with without necessarily reaching out to anybody. You're seeing exactly how it's done. So all we have to do is just type into Google what's the mortgage interest rate today, and it'll most likely send you here at a bank rate. And at the current moment, the interest rate right now is about 6.87%. Now this is an average. And of course, averages, some are higher, some are lower. It's going to depend on how much you're borrowing. It's going to depend on your credit. It's going to depend on what it's doing for the day. It's going to depend on your debt to income ratio. It's going to depend on all those fun stuff for what you're going to get. But for our purposes today, we're just going to play the average. That way we get a good solid number. We're going to forget about the zip code because we're going to be calculating the rest of the information ourselves. Same thing with the credit score. It would impact the interest rate and all that fun stuff, but we're going to do everything manually as you're seeing right now. What I want to get to, and I want to spend a little bit of time here, is property taxes, especially in McKinney, and let's just face it, especially in Texas. The property taxes in McKinney are high, and partly because in Texas, they're high altogether. Texas has some of the highest property tax rates in the country. In fact, it's number 7 out of the 50 states. So when we're looking at property taxes, we want to get these right. And here's how we're going to do that. We need to find what the actual property tax rate is, because this, even though this is a pretty cool calculator that does everything on the back end, property taxes are wrong 100% of the time if you use this tool or any tool out there. It doesn't matter which mortgage calculator you use, it's going to be wrong. So you need to manually know where to go to get this information. So we're going to go directly to the source. We're going to go to Google real quick, and we're going to type in McKinney, Texas property tax rate. So again, McKinney, Texas property tax rate, McKinney, Texas property tax rate. And we're going to try to get directly to the source. And the source is going to typically be in the city website itself. If we can't find it there, we're going to go to the county website. We're going to go to the county website and manually type in some some items so we can get to the right answer. So here's what we got to do. We're going to go to McKinney, see if it comes up with the information we need. And it does. Perfect. Now is a good opportunity for me to share the important stuff here. So if we didn't know any better, we take this information right here and say, hey, that's the property tax rate, but we do know better. So here's what happens. In any city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's going to be up to five numbers that are going to be factored in when you're looking at property taxes. Again, any city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's up to 5 numbers that you'll want to find to add together to get your actual true property tax rate. Every single city, up to 5 numbers. Now, the first 3 that I'm going to label here are going to be in every city, no questions asked, take it to the bank, there's no exemptions, like it's going to be these 3. The other 2 numbers that I'll bring up, those might show up in cities. In fact, this one has one of the 2, it doesn't have both. So, and you're going to see what I mean there here shortly. So the first 3 that I'm saying that are going to be in every single city, doesn't matter which one it is, whether it's Crowley, Fort Worth, Frisco, Denton, Grapevine, Louisville, Colleyville, Coppell, Garland, Richardson, take any pick. The first 2 are going to be the city, the county, the ISD. So the city tax rate, in this case McKinney, the county, in this case Collin County, and the ISD, in this case McKinney ISD. Those 3 numbers will exist here in McKinney. So essentially the city, the county, the ISD. Now the other 2 numbers that might show up depending on the city that you choose are going to be the higher education tax. So think of like community colleges. In this case, think Collin College, and then higher education. So I'm sorry, healthcare network. So think of a hospital network. So city, county, ISD, those three, take them to the bank. The other two, the higher education and the hospital network, those might show up either one or both or none. Hopefully that's kind of clear, but let's dig in a little bit deeper. So the first rate that we're going to look at is right here. This one is the city. So we need to take this one, and we need to add what? The county. So we're going to add this county right here. Now, what else do we need to add? The ISD. So those are the three numbers that I mentioned earlier. And then the other two that might show up are college or hospital network. In this particular case, hospital network is not here. It's just the Collin College, so higher education. So there's four numbers. So if you add these together, I think it adds all of them, right? So it adds this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this. This means that the property tax rate in McKinney is 1.77%. In McKinney, you're looking at 1.77%. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with 0.0177 times, what home are we buying? A $500,000 home, right? Yeah. So we're buying this $500,000 home. Yeah, so this is 1.77 and this is in hundreds. So it's 0.017% is the decimal right here that we're doing times $500,000. So this means that our property taxes for a home of $500,000 in in value, which we'll talk about here shortly, is $8,850. We're going to divide this by 12 to get the monthly. And now that's 730, let's call it 738. So we're going to come back here and see how grossly underestimated this was. So if we just took that number, we would be extremely disappointed whenever we get our closing disclosure on how much we actually would need to pay per month. We would be paying double in property taxes. In fact, I got blindsided when I bought my first house in Carrollton there off of Castle Hills. Not good news. Not good news. I was paying almost $1,000 a month. I had no idea what I was doing. So I don't want that to happen to you. All right, so let's keep it going. Now, here's a cool thing. I know this is high. I recognize that. But just remember, we don't have state income tax. But beyond that, this number is a little bit higher. It's a little bit more conservative than what you're actually going to be paying. How is that the case? Well, I used the market value. I used what you can actually buy the property for, $500,000. I didn't use the assessed value. The assessed value is what the county actually charges or will tax your your property tax rate against. And the assessed value is oftentimes, if you do your job correctly, less, in some cases substantially less than the market value. So here, if the market value is 500, which is what you could realistically sell the property for, if you do your job by applying a homestead exemption, by protesting property taxes, and getting some adjustments down, this could be assessed very easily $450,000, $430,000 if you do a good enough job protesting. So here again, we just used the more conservative number, and we got $738 per month. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, home insurance on a property of this value, it'll be on the higher end. I'm gonna go with $200 just to give you a realistic number. Now, I want to put a little caveat here that home insurance right now, the premiums are just insane. Some insurers are actually refusing to write policies. Even here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's so many storms. Here in just this week, I've had my roofer go and check out two of my rentals, and I'm gonna have him come and check some more here. Here in my own home. So it's just becoming a lot. So home insurance premiums right now, this is me giving you a conservative ballpark, but what I can encourage you to do here to try to reduce this as much as possible so you're not overpaying, go ahead and bundle it with your auto. Get an insurance broker to go out there and shop to their heart's desire, and then also quote out and shop out your policies every single year. It's just, home insurance is just such a racket at this point. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I just don't. So $200 is what we're going to budget here because we're going to be paying that in our monthly mortgage payment. PMI, we're not going to put anything in PMI because we put at least 20% down. Had we put less than that, had we put 10%, then there would be PMI here, and it would be roughly, if we're putting about $400,000, we'd probably be paying about $180, $200 in PMI per month, give or take. But again, this is going to be 0.5% or 1%, again, roughly. HOA, our HOA fees, we got to find this property is an HOA. Since it's McKinney, I'm almost going to assure you that it is. All right, so where is it? Where is it? All right, so association fees, and it might be yearly. Annually. Okay, cool. So association fees is $1,000. So $1,000, what is that? $83 per month. HOA fees. Now, word to the wise, you don't pay the HOA fees in your monthly mortgage payment. You pay that, in this case, yearly, but you pay that directly. So this is a cost of doing business, but you're not going to actually make that payment within your mortgage payment. So just as a heads up. All right. So with that being said, this home that we're buying for $500,000, what does it actually cost us per month if we're going to finance it in the way that we listed out? Well, if you buy this McKinney home for $500,000 and put 20% down at a 30-year loan term with a 6.87% interest rate, and your property taxes being $738 per month, $200 in home insurance, nothing towards PMI, and the HOA in this particular home being $83, you can expect to pay about $3,647. Now, this is a little bit conservative because of that property tax item that we just talked about, but here again, it's going to be roughly around $3,600. So I'm not going to be off by much. So if you're thinking, well, I might save a lot of money in property taxes and I'll be paying less than $3,500, I hate to break it to you, you're not, unless you put more money down. All right, so that is how to calculate the monthly mortgage payment. Now, I know I spent a lot of time in property tax information, but if you're going to buy in McKinney, I need you to be very aware of that because you have options. You could go to Princeton, you could go to Allen, you could go to Little Elm, you can go to Frisco, you can go to Prosper, you can go up to Melissa and get a different property tax rate. So for all the other property tax rates, check out the other videos that we have. We have videos on all of the cities I just mentioned. In fact, we have about 3 videos per city. So if you're thinking about McKinney or the surrounding areas, make sure that you compare the cities. Property taxes is going to be the biggest differentiator outside of price. So I want you to be informed. And also don't be intimidated by property taxes. They're simple once you know where to look. And you saw everything was publicly available. But you just need to know where to go. Speaking of knowing where to go, let's talk about making an offer. Everything is negotiable in real estate. So I'm going to show you the real estate contract and what you're going to most likely be expected to sign, or at least components of it, whenever you're working with a real estate agent. Now, if you're not working with a real estate agent, please reach out to us. We would love to support you in any way that we can, because this is what we do and we love it. So make sure that if you're looking to buy in McKinney, please feel free to reach out to us, but for sure reach out and get the DFWHomebuyerClass.com, because it will cover everything that we just talked about and then some. All right, so let's look at the parties. Parties is very simple. It's who's buying and who's selling. Property, what property are you buying? That's pretty self-explanatory. Let's talk about exclusions. One of the best ways that I can explain this is when you go and see that home here, in this case, we're buying this McKinney home. Remember, we're using this as an illustration. Everything that you see in this property, that chandelier is a really good example. Anything that you see attached to the property is going to convey with the property. There's the expectation that it's going to convey, is a better way of saying that. Everything that's attached here, everything's going to convey. And for the record, the fridge is not attached. Just so you know, this is not attached, but the dishwasher is, and the range is, and the sink is. But anyway, everything that you see attached is going to convey. However, if there is this, let's say this fan here, we love it and we can't wait to have it in our home. Well, if this fan right here in the living room is listed out here in the exclusions, that means that it doesn't convey. They have to disclose what is not going to convey that's already affixed to the property, that's attached to the property, whether that's the ceiling, the floor, the walls, anything that's attached, the doors, everything that's attached is conveying unless it's excluded here. So for whatever reason it says, hey, we're taking all the doors. If it says we're taking all the doors here, you better find a good doorsman to replace those doors, just so you know. Sales price is here. This one is also pretty self-explanatory, how much you plan to offer, but also how you plan to finance yourself. So if you're doing an all-cash offer of $500,000, you'd put $500,000 here. But if you're doing 20% down, which is what we did on our example, you'd put $100,000 here, third-party financing addendum, and share how much you're going to be financing. In this particular case of this $500,000 home, we're financing $400,000. Now leases, they're not going to come into play as much. It's going to depend on the property that you purchase. So if you are buying one that has a tenant in there, well, it's going to need to accompany a residential lease with it. If you're buying a property that has solar panels, well, it needs to have a fixture lease to it. If you have one that is being rented out for oil and gas, or like there's a lease for oil and gas, let's just say you have an oil well for whatever reason in the front yard, well, there needs to be a natural resource lease in place that you need to have access to when you're buying. Let's talk about earnest money and the termination option, because this is going to apply in every transaction. So earnest money, think of it as a good faith deposit that you're going to buy this property. It's basically as you saying, hey, I'm going to buy this property and I'm going to share with you how, and I'm pretty committed to this. I'm actually going to do a good faith deposit. I'm going to do earnest money. Now, it's not legally required. Earnest money, I'll repeat, is not legally required, but it is expected. So it is expected that you put some earnest money to, put your money where your mouth is, in another way of saying that. Well, earnest money, again, not legally required, but you are expected to put about 1% of the value of the home. So in this particular case, since we're buying this $500,000 property, we're expected to pay $5,000 within 3 days of us executing this contract. So as soon as we execute this contract, we have 3 business days to, we have 3 days to submit the earnest money to the title policy. So you need to have $5,000 ready to go. Now, if you go through and actually purchase the property, so you get to the closing table and you buy this property, that $5,000 gets applied to closing. If you get out of the contract in a compliant way, that $5,000 gets credited back to you. If you break the contract, though, I'm sorry to tell you, you just lost $5,000. So it really highlights the importance of you working with a real estate agent that knows what they're doing. They need to be able to protect you and be able to share this information with you and get you out of contracts in the event that you need to get out, so you don't lose your earnest. So just be very mindful of that. Now, again, earnest, it's a way to show commitment. Termination option, it's a little bit different. Terminating an option, the termination option is basically an option fee, where you pay anywhere from $100 to $200. You can certainly pay more, but that's what a lot of the contracts right now are I'm seeing. Is checking in from Dallas, Texas. What's up, Big Sosa? Let's get you on here. Thanks for coming through. I'm going to go to Dallas here shortly, so pretty excited. The option I'm seeing right now between $100 to $200 between 5 to 10 days. So the rate that we write offers is right now we're putting about $200 for 7 days worth of option, and that option is giving us an opportunity to do due diligence on the property. So in this particular case, for however many days you buy the option for, you're most likely going to be doing the home inspection and getting the assessed and getting the condition of the home to see if there's going to be some other negotiation items that need to be in play. Now, here during the option, if for whatever reason you cancel the contract within those 7 days, which you're very well within your right, you do not get that money back. You do not get the option fee back, because why? It's actually a fee. It's not a deposit. You're actually paying for that. Title policy. Title policy is a way for you to essentially ensure, it's an insurance, ensure that you are buying what you think you're buying. So the property that you buy, in the event, let's say in 3 months down the road, somebody comes out of the woodworks and says, hey, this property that you just bought in McKinney, that actually was mine. It should not have been sold. Give it back. Well, if that happens, the title insurance, so the title insurance that you got through the title company and the title policy, is going to indemnify you from that. So they're going to be the ones that take on that cause of handling that issue, because that's what you paid for. So you're indemnified from that. Now, who pays for this title policy? That's negotiated. That's something that in normal markets, it's not, and with fair offers, it's not uncommon for the seller to pay. But if you really love that home and want to get this home under contract and are really putting a competitive offer together, it's not uncommon for the buyer to pay. Survey is a piece of document that lets you know what you're buying. It lets you know where the boundaries are. It lets you know what if there's any easements on the property. It gives you a clear, think of it, just essentially lets you know where everything is. It'll let you know the amount of land that you have. It'll let you know where the improvement, aka the home, is on that land. It's essentially it's a survey. That's what it is. Now, it's if you once you buy this home and you get this survey, make sure that you don't lose it, because it's going to be a $600 expense for you to have to replace it later on. Property owner association, so an HOA. This property is in an HOA, so you're going to need to attach a addendum to this particular contract. Seller's disclosure, it's required by the Texas Property Code. The only ones that are excluded is banks. So if it's bank owned, they're not required to give you a disclosure, because they're not required to. But just about everybody else is required to share with you a property disclosure. And this seller's disclosure is essentially lets you know what the property has and doesn't have, and also let you know the condition of it. So it'll let you know if it has gas. It'll let you know how many HVAC units and what condition they might be in, the sense that do they work. If they work, great. So again, it just lets you know what the property has, and also if anything that they know is wrong with it. Residential service contracts, that's the home warranty. Now, home warranty, here you don't necessarily get a home warranty with the sale of the property, but you can purchase one, and this is where you ask for a certain amount of credit. Now, if the homeowner is an agent themselves, or at least owns 10% of the property, they have to legally disclose that to you, and that's where they would do that here. Closing varies in length, but on average you see resale properties, which is what we're doing here. It's a home that is previously been owned. Closings can be done it can be done as quickly like within 10 days, but for the most part, I'm seeing contracts be closed in 25 days. That's really where a lot of the offers that we're putting together, that's what I like to write down, 25 days. Now, we can close sooner. We can close in 21 days. We can close in 2 weeks. We can close sooner, but it would be a lot, and I mean a lot. And I just want to give our buyers plenty of time to where they don't feel ultra rushed, to where it just doesn't become such a stressful endeavor. So 25 days is what we're looking at closing. And the rest of the information is pretty, I don't want to say self-explanatory, because you still need to read it, but it is more disclosures. There's not much that you're going to be putting or changing along the way. So let's go back here and go through the transaction. So let's just say we have already submitted our offer. They accepted it. We're good to go. With these 25 days for us to close, I'd like to break it down into 4 main weeks to make it easier to understand what we're going to be doing. Week 1 is going to be your inspections week. Week 2 is going to be your approval week. Week 3 is going to be your conditions week, and week 4 is going to be your move-in week. So here's how we label these. And all of this is in DFWHomebuyerClass.com, so make sure you check that out. Everything's listed out in a checklist. So here's what this means. During the inspections week, it's going to be your option period. We talked about the option and how many days you can give yourself. This is where you're going to have a general inspection. You're going to purchase where you're going to ask an inspector to go out there and give you an assessment of what the property's condition is. And then also, in the event that there's something that needs a second look or a little bit more specialized look, that's where you would get an HVAC technician or a foundation specialist, a roofer, a plumber, somebody that needs to go and look at the property a little bit closer, or for whatever might be in doubt. So this is where your taking all this information and deciding, do I want to continue moving forward with the purchase of this property, or do I want to negotiate so the seller can repair or credit me some of the things that came up during my due diligence? That's what we call the second negotiation. You're not going to be negotiating a lot of the terms. It's those are already good to go, but based off of the condition, you might revisit the a few clauses here or there. So again, week 1 is going to be inspections, and you're going to do your due diligence. Week 2, you work so hard, very diligently, and try to get approved. Now, you're not going to be able to get approved in 2 weeks. However, in week 2, you're going to be submitting documentation after documentation to your lender to try to get pre-approved. You're going to be working with the title company to give you that title policy. But for the most part here, you're working with your lender, submitting as much documentation as possible, because they're going to ask for 30 different things, 30 different ways. So make sure that you're on top of that. And also, something very important is going to happen here, and the lender's going to do what's called a ordering an appraisal. So they're going to order an appraisal at this particular stage, so an appraiser can go out to the property and give them the opinion of value. So you're under a contract on this home for $500,000. Remember, we're trying to buy this house here in McKinney. Do not get lost. We're trying to buy this house in McKinney right now. And that appraiser is going to go out there and see, all right, what's the value of this house that's under contract for $500? Well, and the answer is going to come in week number 3. So in week number 3, several things are going to come back. So in week number 3, hopefully you've submitted enough documentation to your lender to where they are able to send over the loan packet to the underwriting team so they can review whatever was submitted. Now, if there's some clarification that they need from some of the documents, or they need some other documentation because you forgot to include whatever it happened to be, those are what's called conditions. So we need a letter stating that these other rental properties that you have, hopefully you didn't hear that, you have a letter with these other properties, rental properties that you have. We need you to attest that they don't have a homeowners association, as an example. And that's something I have to do continuously with all the loans that I end up getting. But anyway, so this is where you're cleaning up some conditions. So you're making sure that everything is in order so you can get approved. So that's you. In week 3, you're working really hard to get those conditions cleaned up. But what's also here again, what's going to be very important is when this appraisal comes back, when the appraiser goes out and then gives the opinion of value, this value is super important, because it's going to let the bank know if it appraised is the term that is used. So you're in a contract for $500,000. If the appraiser comes back and says, hey, that property is actually worth more, it's worth $600,000. Well, congratulations, you just got into this home for less than what it's actually worth. Fantastic job, which happens with us all of the time. So make sure that you're working with the real estate agent that knows what they're doing. But anyway, that's perfect. There's no issue there. You just keep going. So you go on to week 4. Well, there is an issue if the appraiser comes back and says, hey, this home's actually worth $450,000. So you're under contract for $500. You're under contract to buy this house for $500. Well, the appraiser's coming back and saying, hey, it's $450. Well, the loan or the lender's not going to approve of that beyond $450. So they're going to lend up to $450. There's the difference at $50,000. What's going to happen? Well, there's 4 things that can happen. Number 1, you come up with the difference. You add an additional $50,000 into the deal in the form of cash to end up buying that property. That's 1. The second thing that can happen is that the seller can concede down to the appraised value. The seller says, well, okay, well, if this property is worth $450, well, okay, then I'll drop my ask to $450. So in this particular case, option number 2, the seller comes down. What ends up happening the majority of the time, though, is we find a medium somewhere. The seller will concede some of the price, and you, the buyer, you're going to come up with some additional money in the form of cash to cover up the delta. So you're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Again, you're under contract for $500. The property's actually worth $450. You're coming up somewhere in the middle. That's what happens quite a bit. Now, that's option 3. Another thing that can happen, option 4, is the seller's not willing to concede, and you're not going to go up there. Well, at this point, there's not much to be done. You get out of that contract, assuming that you have the right clauses with because you couldn't get approved for the loan. So again, it's contingent upon you having the right clauses in place, which there's a few clauses that I didn't cover in the contract, but much of the item that we're talking about here has to do with your third-party financing addendum that I referenced earlier on in the contract, but we didn't go into. That's what happens. Now in week 3, here again, most likely you're receiving the closing disclosure, which basically lets you know everything. It lets you know the fees. It lets you know what you're paying, how much you need to, what you're paying in your mortgage payment, how much you need to bring to the closing table when you're closing. It shows everything financially. Now this does need to get to your inbox within 3 business days of closing. And if it doesn't, then you have an issue, because you need to legally have 3 days to review what you're signing. And week number 4, again, keep in mind, we're assuming a 25-day close. Week number 4, this is when you're scheduling the closing. So what time you're going to go actually and close. We're going to go to the title company and closed. This is where you're making sure that your utilities are activated, and then you're doing the final walkthrough. So the final walkthrough, you're going to either do the day before closing or the day of closing to make sure that what you're about to purchase is in fact in the same condition and what you expect it to be. And then you get to the closing. So whenever you go to the title company and bring your funds for the down payment and closing costs, whether that's a wire or a cashier's check, once you sign everything and you bring your money for closing, and the loan reviews the documentation the lender reviews the documentation that's been sent over, and they fund the loan, you become a homeowner. We went through a big journey. We just bought a McKinney homeowner. We just found a McKinney homeowner, and that is you. So what happens next? I mentioned we're a homeowner. Now the real fun begins, right? Now we begin to enjoy the property and the home that we just bought. But I also want to share some things that are that we share with our clients, not some things, exactly what we share with our clients, on what to do the first week of closing, so you can get right into that home and start enjoying it. What to do within your first 30 days so you can start saving some money, and also prepping yourself for the following year, which we're going to be talking about property taxes and what you should be doing yearly so you can enjoy that home even more with some additional savings. All of this information is in the homebuyerclass.com. So make sure that you go and check that out. It is very, very detailed, even way more detailed than this. There's checklists, there's calculators, there's everything that you'll need to know about being a McKinney home owner. So DFW homebuyerclass.com. That is all you're going to need to know. Outside of that, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much. Don't forget to hit that like button, because that's going to really help out our cause. Thanks so much.